Hello and welcome to Research Matters podcasts. Today Aishwarya Viswamitra, will give you a summary of science stories that were published during the week on Research Matters. In your weekly dose of Indian science news today, I cover stories on engineering, ecology, and health. This week, let's begin by talking about the wonder material called graphene. Graphene is a single atom thick sheet of carbon that has various applications ranging from electronics to drug delivery. It is commonly produced by a technique called chemical vapor deposition or CVD, in which metals, such as copper and platinum, are exposed to hydrocarbons like ethane and methane. These hydrocarbons then decompose and deposit on the metal substrate to form a film of graphene. However, graphene produced by this technique develops defects in its crystal structure, altering its mechanical and electrical properties. Now, researchers from India and the USA have come up with a novel mechanism to create and heal such defects in graphene. By studying the graphene samples produced by CVD on a copper surface in different ways, the researchers found that the electrical properties of graphene could be made to increase if, once the graphene layer was formed on the copper, the reaction condition called the carbon potential is raised to a slightly higher value. In fact, they found that this was a reversible process because if the carbon potential was lowered back to its initial value, the electrical properties too decreased to their initial values. Electron mobility characterizes how quickly an electron can move through a metal or semiconductor when pulled by an electric field. So, higher mobility leads to a better device performance. Through this set of experiments, the researchers have been able to create graphene with one of the highest reported electronic mobilities at room temperature to date. When water is added to the surface of the graphene film, it seeps into the grain defects. The researchers took advantage of this, and by using optical and atomic force microscopy, they observed the impression of water along the grain boundaries. They were able to show that changes in the electrical values are occurring due to the decrease and increase in the grain boundary defects. The researchers believe that if graphene can make paper impermeable to water, it can be used as a substitute for plastic and hence solve many of the garbage problems that we are facing today. Have you heard of the term behavioral plasticity? Well, it is the ability of animals to change their behavior in response to changes in their surroundings. If you look at our water bodies, one increasingly common change is the increase in turbidity. Whether due to natural causes such as flash floods or human causes such as dumping of sewage water, turbidity causes a decrease in visual clarity. How do organisms in the water adapt when the water turns murky? A study by researchers from two Indian Institutes of Science Education and Research, Mohali and Kolkata, have addressed this question in zebrafish. Zebrafish is a freshwater fish found in India in a variety of water bodies, from streams to lakes close to human habitation, both prone to turbidity. Thus, they're an ideal candidate for studying the change in behavior in response to murky water. The researchers captured wild zebrafish from a stream in Kolkata and put them in three separate tanks: clear water, water with low turbidity, and water with high turbidity. After a month, they observed how good the fish were in finding food in turbid water. They found that the fish, which were in turbid water for a month, could find their food efficiently in turbid water than those which were in clear water. In the second set of experiments, the researchers added visual cues, such as colored stones in the tank, to see if zebrafish used them to find food. They find that indeed the fish used these cues and got to the food faster in the turbid water. However, these visual cues did not impact the zebrafish in clear water. The researchers suspect that this is because while in clear water, the zebrafish is at maximum feeding efficiency anyway, and thus do not need the objects to guide them. With increasing turbidity in water bodies, the water clarity degrades and poses a risk to the survival of fish, especially for those that are already endangered. While this study showed how fish could cope with murky water, further studies that assess water clarity can help devise mitigation plans in turbidity-prone areas. While turbidity affects our water bodies, a major issue our rainforests are facing is deforestation. Did you know that the world has lost over half of its tropical forests due to logging for commercial plantations, forest fires, and diseases since 1960? In a part of the Anamalai Hills called the Valparai Plateau, tropical evergreen rainforests were subjected to deforestation from 1890 to 1940 for commercial purposes. 50 years! But don't worry, since 2000, many plantation companies have supported restoration efforts by removing weeds and planting native tree saplings in these forests. Here, in the forest pastures of Valparai, Tamil Nadu, researchers from Columbia University, USA, and Nature Conservation Foundation or NCF, Mysore, have addressed the effects of such restoration effects. Active restoration is reforesting by growing native tree species in areas that were once forests by planting saplings. On the other hand, passive restoration is done by simply allowing degraded forests to regrow naturally without human intervention. By using biological indicators of rainforests like tree density, canopy cover, and the height to diameter ratio of trees, the researchers were able to show that actively restored sites had a positive and consistent effect on rainforest recovery than their passively restored counterparts. In fact, the actively restored sites exhibited greater tree diversity and higher densities of vital tree species because active restoration includes the removal of non-native invasive weeds such as lantana before planting native trees. For a particular area, actively restored sites had an average of 14 tree species, while naturally regenerated sites had only 8, consistent with their hypothesis that the effects of active restoration increases with an increase in distance from intact contiguous forests. Although active restoration builds the hope that someday the rainforests may gain their lost glory, invasive plants still pose a problem, and in future studies, the researchers aim to figure out how to improve regeneration of native species over invasives. Can you tell me which disease causes an abnormal increase in the cell number? That's right, cancer. The human immune system protects us from cancer cells by synthesizing specialized killer cells called T cells. They can recognize tumors and cancerous growths and destroy them. However, in advanced stages, cancer cells can inactivate T cells or modify themselves in a way that the T cells cannot detect them. What if we approach fighting cancer in a different way? Immunotherapy is the process where the patient's immune system is strengthened to attack cancer cells. Chimeric antigen receptors, or CARs, are proteins that assist the T cells to recognize and attach to a specific protein or antigen present on cancer cells, leading to the destruction of the cancer cell. A new approach in immunotherapy called CAR T cell therapy restores the ability of the T cells to recognize the cancer cells and kill them. Although it is a very promising treatment, it is currently not available in India and extremely expensive abroad. But don't worry, a team of scientists from IIT Bombay have developed a patented CAR T cell technology. They collaborated with the National Cancer Institute as a knowledge partner and delved into strategies that would improve the efficacy of this technique and demonstrated that a single injected dose would lead to multiplication of modified T cells that can destroy cancer cells. Having tested it on artificially grown cancer cells and carried out several quality checks to ensure the long-term safety of the treatment, the team is now in the process of initiating clinical trials at the Tata Memorial Hospital mid-next year. Developed in India, this technology will hopefully be affordable for larger sections of society. One more thing to look forward to in the year 2020. Continuing on the topic of cancer, a well-known carcinogen is tobacco. In fact, smokeless tobacco contains more than 30 carcinogens, in spite of which, in India, 21.4% of all adults still consume tobacco in its smokeless form. In 2005, the World Health Organization's Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, or FCTC, came into force to address the growing tobacco epidemic, with provisions for lobbying, demand reduction, regulations, packing and labeling, awareness, researcher, and other areas for tobacco control. Exactly how well have its regulations been implemented? A recent study has highlighted some drawbacks in the implementation of FCTC, in its signatory countries. The researchers believe that due to global efforts concentrated on curbing cigarette consumption, concerns regarding smokeless tobacco usage have been neglected. In fact, they suspect that due to the aggressive campaign against smoking, smokeless tobacco has emerged as a cheap replacement. Though the FCTC mandates that the signatories enforce a comprehensive ban of all tobacco advertising, promotion, and sponsorship, the study found that of the 181 countries where the treaty is followed, only 41 mandate pictorial warnings on these products. Plus, the FCTC enforces the countries to promote and strengthen public awareness of tobacco control issues. But once again, only 65 countries had an anti-tobacco mass media campaign. India, being one of the signatory countries, has unfortunately fallen short too. A 2018 study by researchers at the Tata Medical Center, Kolkata, has reported that India's progress in complying with the FCTC has been inconsistent. The issue of pro-tobacco lobbies claiming that banning tobacco will lead to massive unemployment, supplemented with ethical issues such as child labor coming into play, taking action has been a complicated task. But all is not lost. The researchers believe that if active steps towards implementing the FCTC are taken, and if educational campaigns are held to spread awareness about the ill effects of smokeless tobacco while dispelling myths towards it, we can still make a change. Thank you for listening to this episode of Research Matters Podcast. We will be back next weekend with some more exciting science news. For more such podcasts and news, please log on to www.researchmatters.in. Thank you for listening to this episode of Research Matters Podcast. See you next weekend. For more such podcasts and news, please log on to www.researchmatters.in.